Ready. So my brother, tell me about all the amazing work you have been doing in this part of the world to protect these miracle trees, and why are we here now?
Well, it is important because people in this country really depend on aquatic resources such as fish, oyster, and a lot of things. And because of that, we are faced with a lot of problems like mangrove dieback. And because of mangrove dieback, fish stock is dwindling, it's reducing, and the communities are feeling it. And also because of climate change, a lot of things are changing. We have to find a way we can adapt to climate change. We have to find ways we can get these resources back so that livelihood becomes easier and also the environment is protected and our well-being is well promoted. So that being the case, we are trying to set up this area as a protected area. And during the last 5 years, we have done series of mangrove planting in different areas. But still, there is a lot of space that needs to be planted on both sides of the creek, on the Senegal side and also in the Gambian side. So I think this is an opportunity where we can create a transboundary project. The Senegal communities can work on their area and the Gambia communities can work in their area. And then we can have Park for Peace and also do a work that can bring a lot of prosperity to the community.
Peace and stability.
Peace and stability.
Yeah, there can be no sustainable development without sustainable peace.
That's right, that's
Correct.
right. And I know for certain that I can communicate to the park warden in Abeni. He can organize the communities around there. They are under his jurisdiction. And already what we are planning right now is that they have a park there called Abeni Community Reserve. We are making here Alahain Community Reserve, and these two parks will become a transboundary community reserve. So which is which will be a great achievement for the two countries and for the people who live in there.
Approximately how many families or household would you say could benefit if we do such a project in this area? How many members of the community, you say community, what would be the population size? Target beneficiaries, I mean to say.
Actually, the target beneficiaries will be more than 200,000.
Wow.
200,000
Which directly benefit.
Yes. Because if you look at the
200,000.
communities adjacent the area,
Yeah.
the population is far more than 200,000.
So it's quite dense.
Oh yes.
And obviously they are dependent on fuel wood and fish
and
from here,
oyster, and
everything.
even salt. They
Yeah.
produce even salt from here.
Yeah,
So a lot of things are actually produced from here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Approximately how much would you say is a degraded area that needs restoration here?
Here I can say it will be more than 5,000 hectares.
Minimum.
Minimum, yes.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Okay.
Because really, if you look at the area and compare it with the area 30 years ago, a lot of the land has even changed.
Completely.
A lot of the land forms.
Yeah.
We can bring it back.
We need
Because
major
We
restoration then.
need major restoration. It
Yeah.
would include some form of engineering to take the water back to its original limit. Because of sedimentation and siltation, some of the areas are now becoming, barren land
Yes.
because the water is not reaching there. Also because of drought and others. We
Correct.
can still find a way of
To bring the water back.
bringing water back to those areas and planting mangrove. By doing that, we will have a lot of fish, a lot of oyster, a lot of manatees, a lot of things we will have, and the population will live better.
How many species are here, brother? I'm just looking at the types of species here. Is it Rhizopharia? Is it
Yes, you see.
dominant species?
Yes, this one is Avicennia,
Avicennia?
but the one behind is Rhizophora.
Yeah.
So you have Rhizophora mangul and Rhizophora harrisoni. You have Avicennia nitida, and those are the main species. But also you have Conocarpus near the beach side.
Yeah.
Along the sand dunes, we have Conocarpus erectus. I don't see Laguncularia, but I'm sure it will be somewhere around.
Where can you find all the planting materials if we were to plant next year? How can we get the troops ready to bring all the planting material from? Where do you collect your planting material from? The Popogots, I mean.
The propagoules we collect it from River Gambia,
Okay.
from around River Gambia.
Bring it by boat.
Actually we collect it and put it in the truck and bring it. We
Okay.
have people who are specialists in collecting propagoules. They can collect as many as we need. We just purchase it from them
Excellent.
and bring it to the planting site. So normally what we do in order to avoid propagoules lying for a long time, we have a team that is collecting, we have a team that is transplanting, and another team that is planting on the ground.
Immediately.
So it won't take 4 days.
Immediately.
They will get planted.
So the
So
supply.
that means we can have 99% success.
Amazing. That's the way to do it.
Yes, that's the way.
But there are some species that you have to raise in a nursery also, no? That don't have proper guts.
Yes, actually that species is Rhizophora racemosa
Yes.
and also Avicennia nitida.
Yeah, you
But
have
in
to
here,
raise.
there's a lot of Avicennia regeneration. You can see it just behind you. since there's a lot of Abyssinia regeneration, we think rhizophora mangul, collecting rhizophora mangul and planting is more required. It's much more needed
Yep.
than doing this plantation.
So when we plant, we also plant multiple species to increase the biodiversity of the mangrove types, right?
That's right.
Multiple
that's
species
right.
planting.
That's right. The other thing that can also be done is on the interface, on the edge, around the boundary between the mudflat and the upland,
Yeah.
we can plant some other trees that are filtering, that will filter water that
Yeah.
come from upland to the mangrove
The
area,
mangrove
so
area.
that also our mangroves we are planting can be secured,
Yeah.
and they don't have to face a lot of mortality in
Exactly.
the future.
So in the same way, the mangroves prevent saltwater intrusion from going to paddy fields.
Yes.
In the same way,
Same way
those
they-
trees will
yes.
protect other water from going to the mangrove
That's
side.
right. Yes.
So
That's
it
the same
works
way.
both ways.
Both ways. Yes.
I got it.
Yeah.
Great, excellent. Thank you so much, brother. I'm
You're
really
welcome.
proud of what you're doing here, man. May the forest of the tide be with you always. This is what I
Thank
call
you.
the forest of the tide, right here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And oh yeah, and what are you doing from your Department of Wildlife and Parks?
Well, Department of Parks and Wildlife are charged with regulating wise use of natural resources. A more weak mangrove is paramount because the Gambia is a coastal country. Having mangrove for over 200 kilometers of the river that dissect the country into two regions, northern and southern. And mangrove becomes really very important because it is within the biggest landscape where a population of 1.6 million people live and are dependent on resources related to mangrove, like rice growing within the mangrove zone paddies, catching fish, oyster, harvesting salt, collecting mangrove for house poles, for fencing gardens and other stuff. So you can see their need is so much concentrated on mangrove. Now what the country is trying to do now is to try to find alternative for those people and also try to protect mangrove as much as possible. Since now that carbon credit is also coming, we are looking at preservation of mangrove as a whole, not conservation anymore. Now we don't allow cutting, but we want to preserve it. What do we have to do for population who depend on cutting mangrove? We have to find alternative woodlot, agroforest. You can have some trees and put it in your own field that you take care of, that you can use for roofing and fencing and other things for fuel wood, instead of going into the mangroves and cutting mangrove. But also we have to work on the agricultural fields so that we reduce the amount of sedimentation and siltation into the mangrove zones. Because the crop fields are on the upland, the mangroves are on the lowland. So there is a tendency of erosion coming with a lot of sediments into the mangroves. We have to try to address all that. That's why instead of concentrating on our protected areas, we try to do an integrated landscape management.
That is the way.
We want to manage protected area and all the landscape around it.
Yeah.
But also deal with problems even if those problem areas are not within protected areas. That's why we are into all the mangrove zones. That's why we are trying to conserve all the mangrove. That's why we are doing a lot of restoration projects. And thank God we are supported by other government departments like agriculture, like UNDP and FAO, like projects. Almost all the projects are putting some money into planting mangroves and restoring our biodiversity. The reality is Gambia is losing their fish stock, because the fish we have, the finfish and shellfish we have, are fish that depend on mangrove for breeding, for spawning, for nursery, before they get bigger to go into the sea.
Have you seen some impact of sea level rise already? Especially you are in a very high risk zone for climate change, so this is where the battle needs to be fought, right here in the Gambia.
Absolutely, we have seen it. Absolutely, we have seen it. There's a lot of coastal erosion. The only nesting colony or the only nesting offshore island called Bijoli Island is disappearing because of sea level rise. Almost all the islands in this country, from here to Sierra, 200 kilometers away from the mouth of the sea or mouth of the river, all are eroding. The beach, the river Gambia itself, the edges are all eroding. And there's a lot of coastal erosion in Yomi National Park, in around Burfoot area, in around Alahain area, and a lot of things are happening. And if you go to Nyamina, there is complete inundation of rice growing areas and invasion by freshwater species of reed beds. That's also another issue. So really, sea level rise is felt in the Gambia. And also hippos. We have a lot of hippos in the country, and there was a time when hippos don't have the possibility of landing everywhere. But due to sea level rise now, they are landing everywhere, creating problem for farmers, and that's also another problem, definitely. So
Great.
sea level rise, we have seen, has created a lot of problems in the country.
So we have a huge battle to fight right here and a lot of land to be restored.
Absolutely.
Starting from the sea but going all the way to the mountains,
Going all the way to
using
the-
a landscape approach
Absolutely.
and nature-based solutions.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, I'm looking forward to working with you, my brother.
Thank you.
Thank you
are-
so
you
much.
Are welcome. You are welcome. The whole view is welcome.